Ladies and gentlemen, there comes a moment in every life when the soul whispers, "You were not placed here to be everything for everyone. You were placed here to be something extraordinary." That whisper is today's message. Be valuable, not merely available. Your worth is not defined by your availability. In a world that constantly pushes people to stay connected, always respond, and show up instantly, it can be easy to confuse being accessible with being valuable. Many individuals fall into the trap of thinking that the more they say yes, the more they stretch themselves, the more they sacrifice their own needs, the more worthy they become. But true worth has nothing to do with how often you are present for others, and everything to do with how deeply you are connected to yourself. When your identity is wrapped around constant availability, you unintentionally hand your power to the demands of others. You allow your schedule, your energy, and even your emotions to be shaped not by intention, but by interruption. And while you may believe you are being helpful, what often happens is the opposite. Your energy becomes diluted, your focus scatters, and your true gifts are overshadowed by exhaustion. Your worth is rooted in the person you are becoming, not in the number of tasks you complete for others. It grows out of self-awareness, the understanding of your strengths, your values, your purpose. When you invest in your inner world, you develop qualities like wisdom, clarity, creativity, and peace. These qualities are what make you valuable. Availability may make people appreciate your time for a moment, but value makes people appreciate your presence for a lifetime. The difference is profound. One drains you, the other elevates you. Constant availability often leads to resentment, burnout, and a sense of being taken for granted. True value, on the other hand, emerges when you honor your boundaries and decide that your attention and energy are sacred resources to be used deliberately. Being valuable means cultivating depth instead of scattering yourself thin. It means choosing to grow, learn, and evolve so that what you offer the world is meaningful, thoughtful, and empowered. When you stop making yourself endlessly reachable, you give yourself the space to rise into the person you were meant to be. You become someone who speaks from a place of strength rather than depletion, someone whose presence carries weight because it is rooted in intention. The moment you realize that your worth comes from who you are, not how often you're available, you begin to live with a new sense of freedom and confidence. You stop chasing validation through busyness and start building value through authenticity. When you live reactively, you move through life responding to whatever demands your attention in the moment, without intention or clarity. This reactive state keeps you busy but not purposeful, occupied but not fulfilled. It is like being tossed around by waves instead of learning to steer your own ship. Many people wake up each day and immediately fall into patterns of answering messages, attending to others' needs, and handling urgent tasks that drain their energy. Yet none of these actions necessarily reflect their deepest values or long-term goals. Living this way creates the illusion of productivity, but it often leaves you feeling scattered and disconnected from your true path. Being valuable, in contrast, means choosing to live intentionally. It means deciding what deserves your time, your energy, and your presence instead of letting the world decide for you. When you begin to shift from reaction to creation, you reclaim your inner power. You start the day by grounding yourself, reflecting on what truly matters, and aligning your actions with your purpose. You become aware of the difference between what is urgent and what is important. Instead of chasing tasks, you begin to shape your time in a way that nurtures your growth and expands your potential. You move from simply coping with life to consciously designing it. This intentionality allows you to cultivate a sense of inner peace and direction that reactive living can never provide. You feel more connected, more focused, and more aligned with the person you are becoming. Living intentionally also means guarding your mind from distractions that pull you off course. When you let every noise, every request, every impulse dictate your day, you lose the ability to cultivate depth. But when you choose deliberate actions, you strengthen your inner voice and develop a sense of purpose that guides your decisions. You begin to recognize which activities enrich your spirit and which ones drain it. You stop giving your time to things that don't matter and start investing it in practices that build your skills, expand your understanding, and nourish your soul. In this shift, the quality of your presence changes. You no longer show up in a hurried, fragmented state. Instead, you show up with clarity, authenticity, and intention. People feel the difference. Your words carry more meaning because they arise from reflection. Your contributions carry more weight because they come from a place of alignment. You become someone who influences the world not through constant activity, but through purposeful, centered action. This is the essence of becoming valuable, choosing to live from your inner truth instead of reacting to the chaos around you. Protecting your purpose requires boundaries because without them, your energy becomes scattered and your clarity becomes compromised. Life is filled with endless demands, expectations, and distractions that can easily pull you away from what truly matters. Many people say yes out of habit, fear of disappointing others, or the belief that constantly helping makes them more worthy. But without boundaries, your purpose becomes vulnerable to the noise around you. You end up giving your time to things that don't nourish your growth, your peace, or your calling. Boundaries are not about shutting people out. They are about keeping your purpose intact. They serve as the invisible lines that protect your focus and preserve the inner space where your true potential grows. When you honor your boundaries, you send a message to yourself and to others that your time and energy have value. You recognize that your purpose cannot flourish when it is constantly interrupted, drained, or overshadowed by obligations that do not align with your path. Every yes you give must come from a place of intention rather than guilt. Without boundaries, you may spend your life attending to what is urgent for others while neglecting what is essential for you. It becomes difficult to hear the voice of your purpose when you are drowning in commitments that pull you away from your inner truth. Boundaries clear the noise, so you can listen deeply to the guidance that comes from within. Setting boundaries also strengthens your relationship with yourself. It teaches you self-respect, discipline, and the courage to choose what aligns with your spirit. It allows you to step out of patterns of people pleasing and step into a life shaped by purpose instead of pressure. You begin to understand that every time you protect your energy, you are nurturing the foundation of your growth. Boundaries are tools of alignment. They create space for you to study, reflect, rest, and develop the qualities that make you valuable. When you say no to things that do not matter, you open the door to deeper opportunities, insights, and connections that elevate your purpose. People who lack boundaries often feel drained, resentful, and overwhelmed because they are constantly giving more than they have the capacity to offer. But when you establish healthy limits, you give from a place of fullness rather than depletion. Your contributions become more meaningful because they are rooted in clarity and strength. Others begin to respect your time because you respect your own. And most importantly, your purpose grows stronger because you have created an environment where it can thrive without being trampled by unnecessary demands. Boundaries act as guardians of your destiny, allowing you to move through life with intention, focus, and unwavering alignment with who you are meant to become. Growth happens in stillness and self-investment because the deepest parts of you cannot be developed in chaos or constant activity. When your life is filled with noise, demands, and continuous motion, you have no room to hear your own inner guidance. Many people try to improve themselves by doing more, pushing harder, or staying endlessly busy, believing productivity equals progress. But true transformation comes from the moments when you step back, slow down, and choose to nurture your inner world. Stillness allows you to see yourself clearly. to recognize your strengths, understand your patterns, and become aware of the areas where you are called to grow. Without moments of quiet reflection, your actions are often driven by habit rather than intention. Self-investment is the commitment to feed your mind, strengthen your spirit, and expand your understanding. It is choosing to read, study, meditate, learn new skills, or engage in practices that bring you closer to the highest version of yourself. This is not selfishness, it is preparation. Just as a seed cannot grow without being placed in fertile soil, your potential cannot flourish without time, care, and nourishment. When you invest in yourself, you deepen your inner resources: wisdom, clarity, creativity, patience, and resilience. These are the qualities that make you valuable, impactful, and capable of contributing something meaningful to the world. Stillness also helps you regain control over your energy. In silence, you can feel where you have been pouring too much and where you have been neglecting your spirit. You learn to release habits that drain you and embrace practices that restore you. You begin to understand that rest is not a break from growth, but an essential part of it. In a culture that glorifies constant availability, choosing stillness becomes a radical act of self-respect. It reminds you that your worth is not measured by how much you do, but by how deeply you are rooted in yourself. The more time you spend investing in your inner world, the more powerful your outer actions become. Instead of moving through life hurried and unfocused, you begin to act from a place of strength, clarity, and intention. Your decisions become wiser, your words become more meaningful, and your presence carries a sense of calm assurance. People are naturally drawn to those who have cultivated depth within themselves because their energy feels grounding and inspiring. Stillness and self-investment are not luxuries but necessities for anyone who desires to rise above distraction and live with purpose. They help you create a life that is aligned with your values rather than shaped by the demands around you. When you nurture your inner world, every part of your outer world becomes richer, clearer, and more aligned with the person you are meant to become, being valuable means contributing with clarity rather than obligation, because true service comes from alignment, not pressure. Many people say yes because they fear disappointing others or worry that refusing will make them seem unkind or unhelpful. This leads to giving from a place of guilt, exhaustion, and emotional strain. When your actions are driven by obligation, your energy becomes fragmented and your presence loses its strength. You may meet the expectations of others, but you sacrifice the integrity of your own spirit. Contributing with clarity means you first understand your purpose, your limits, and your priorities before offering your time or effort. It means recognizing that not every request deserves your attention and not every opportunity aligns with your path. When you choose clarity over obligation, you begin to honor your inner truth. You take a moment to ask yourself whether what you are being asked to do resonates with your values and long-term vision. You consider whether it supports your growth or drains your energy. This reflection allows you to give with a full heart instead of a heavy one. Giving from clarity strengthens both you and the person receiving your support because your contribution is genuine, intentional, and filled with positive energy. When you give from obligation, it often carries subtle resentment or fatigue that diminishes the impact of your actions. People may sense your frustration or distraction, even if your words are polite. Clarity also empowers you to protect your time without guilt. When you act from a place of alignment, saying no becomes an act of honesty rather than rejection. It becomes a tool for preserving your energy so that when you do say yes, you can show up with strength and authenticity. This shift transforms the quality of your relationships. Instead of being known as someone who is always available, you become known as someone whose presence matters, someone who contributes depth, insight, and genuine care because you never give more than you are able to offer. Others begin to trust your yes because they know it comes from sincerity, not pressure. When you contribute with clarity, your actions become more impactful. You begin to focus on the tasks, relationships, and goals that elevate your purpose rather than scatter it. Your energy becomes concentrated, powerful, and directed toward what truly matters. This not only enriches your own life, but also enhances the lives of those around you. People benefit far more from the wisdom, peace, and authenticity you bring than from the rushed, obligatory efforts you might otherwise provide. Giving with clarity means you understand that your presence is meaningful only when it comes from a place of truth, intention, and inner strength. When your presence comes from intention rather than exhaustion, it becomes a gift that others can feel, trust, and draw strength from. Many people rush through life giving pieces of themselves away, emotionally, mentally, and physically, because they believe that constant availability is the same as love or responsibility. But availability without intention empties you, and once you are empty, you cannot offer anything meaningful. When you prioritize being valuable instead of endlessly accessible, you begin to understand that the quality of your presence matters far more than the frequency of it. A tired mind, a pressured heart, or a distracted spirit can be in the room, but that does not mean they are truly present. Real presence comes from a place of clarity, alignment, and peace within yourself. When you show up intentionally, your energy shifts. You speak with more thoughtfulness, listen with deeper empathy, and respond with greater wisdom because you are not operating from depletion. People can sense when you are grounded and when you are scattered. Intentional presence carries a calm, steady, uplifting energy that makes others feel safe, respected, and understood. Exhausted presence, however, often brings tension, impatience, or emotional fog. Even if you mean well, showing up drained dilutes the strength of your influence. Being intentional means you value your energy enough to guard it, replenish it, and offer it consciously. This kind of presence requires self-awareness. You must learn to pause before committing your time, to check in with your spirit, and to ask yourself whether you can give from a place of fullness. If you cannot, it is wiser to step back, rest, or restore your balance first. Doing so is not selfish, it is responsible. It ensures that when you do show up, you bring authenticity rather than obligation, depth rather than distraction. The world does not benefit from your burnout. It benefits from your brilliance, your insight, and your grounded presence. When people experience you fully present, they learn to appreciate the value of your time rather than expect constant access to it. They begin to honor your boundaries because they see the intention behind them. You are no longer someone who shows up out of pressure. You become someone who shows up with purpose. This changes the way others relate to you. They listen more carefully, respect your voice more deeply, and cherish your presence more sincerely because they can feel the difference between a person who is merely available and a person who is genuinely aligned. Intentional presence also enriches your own life. It allows you to participate in your experiences fully instead of rushing through them. You notice moments more deeply, connect with people more meaningfully, and make decisions with greater clarity. You become someone who moves through life not in fragments but in wholeness, not in haste but in harmony with your inner truth.